After the successful meeting, Joe reflects on his behavior. He tells Shir that he might have been too harsh on her earlier and admits that he shouldn't have snapped at her. However, instead of apologizing, he comes up with a plan to get rid of her. Joe praises Shir's talent, telling her that since she successfully treated Mr. Lin, she should use her skills to help more people. He suggests that she should consider joining a medical college to further her knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine. He then reveals that he has already filled out an entrance exam application for her at Ranji University. All she needs to do is sign the form, and her admission will be confirmed. Shir is thrilled at first, but after thinking for a moment, she says she can't accept such a big favor from her boss. Grandpa has already done so much for her, and he entrusted her with Joe's care. She says she won't leave until she makes sure he is fully recovered. Joe, trying to persuade her, says, "This is a life-changing opportunity for you. Don't waste your talent on me." But Shir sees through his plan. She directly calls him out, saying, "You just want me to leave the company, don't you?" Without hesitation, Joe admits it, saying, "Yes, so what? It's a win-win for you." Shir stands her ground, saying that she will only leave once he is completely recovered. Annoyed, Joe snaps, "Who do you think you are trying to control me? If something happens to me, I'll just go to a doctor." Shir smirks, reminding him, Grandpa's orders are absolute. Running out of ways to push her out, Joe tries a different approach. He pulls out a bill and shows it to her. It's the bill for his damaged suit, which Shir washed with soap, completely ruining the fabric. 8,000 yuan. Shir was completely shocked. Before she could react, Joe told her that she had to pay for the damages to stay in the company. However, he also offered her another option, signing the Ranji University entrance form. If she signed it, he would, and she would be able to financially support her studies. Since Shir didn't have enough money, she thought about it for a long time and considered signing the form. But in the end, she refused to sign and told Joe that she would pay him back through hard work. However, she made it clear that she wouldn't leave until his health was completely restored. Hearing this, Joe became extremely angry. He grabbed the university form and was about to sign it himself when Shir suddenly hit his hand, causing his wrist to dislocate. Before Joe could yell at her, he suddenly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself in a hospital. That's when he learned that he had a weak heart. Beside him was Shasha, who told him that Shir was the one who had relocated his wrist and brought him to the hospital. Even the doctor praised Shir's treatment skills. However, Joe was still furious and told Shir that he could report her to the police or even sue her for hurting him. But Shir remained calm, saying that it wouldn't make any sense. Difference because she had proof. She revealed security footage that showed how she had carried him across the office and into the city to get him medical attention. Seeing this, Joe felt incredibly embarrassed in front of the entire office staff. His anger towards Shir only increased. Just then, Shir entered the hospital room again, carrying herbal medicine. Seeing her, Joe immediately snapped at her, but she quickly apologized for accidentally hurting him. However, Joe refused to believe that it was an accident. "How can a normal person accidentally dislocate someone's wrist?" he shouted. Shir calmly explained, "Martial artists like me know exactly where to hit. That's why I want to take full responsibility for your recovery. I won't leave until you're completely healed." Joe ignored her words and tried to grab his suit to leave, but Shir took the suit before him, saying that she wouldn't let him go until he forgave her. She even offered her own hand, saying, "If you're that angry, go ahead and break my wrist." Joe tried to leave, but Shir held onto his hand tightly, refusing to let him go. They started struggling, leading to a ridiculous and funny scene where Joe hurt his wrist again. On top of that, he accidentally got punched in the face by Shir, who was demonstrating an attack move. Seeing the chaos, Joe finally managed to escape, running away as fast as he could. Meanwhile, the office staff had a great time laughing at the situation. That's when Joe decided to take his revenge. He would make sure Shir's life at the company was unbearable. The next day, when she arrived at the office, the first thing she did was apologize to Joe again. This time, Joe forgave her, but he had already set his plan in motion. As part of her daily routine, Shir brought him herbal medicine and a healthy breakfast. At first, Joe refused to drink it, but after Shir scolded him in front of the entire office, he quickly drank it and took the breakfast with him. Seeing this, his assistant was shocked because Joe had never obediently followed anyone who was on his side. Rumors started spreading that something was going on between Joe and Shir. Meanwhile, Joe finalized his plan to kick Shir out of the company. He planned to take Shir to an important executive meeting and embarrass her in front of everyone so badly that she would quit the company herself. During the meeting, Joe put Shir on the spot by asking her to explain the company's new product. Shir panicked for a moment, but then remembered a motivational line her master had taught her. She confidently repeated it, and to everyone's surprise, the entire room applauded her words. Instead of embarrassing herself, Shir ended up impressing everyone. Later, during lunch in the cafeteria, Shir forcefully made Joe eat healthy food, since he was very picky about his diet. Seeing this, 3 of their colleagues got extremely excited, as their suspicions about something happening between Joe and Shir were growing. At that moment, another company employee walked in and saw them sitting together. Feeling uncomfortable, she turned around and left without saying anything. After lunch, Shir forced Joe to exercise by making him walk in the sun. She kept repeating motivational lines from her master as she pushed him to keep moving. After a long session, they both returned to the office. There, Joe asked Shir to learn about the basic tasks in the office, and she agreed to start training under his secretary. Joe brought in a huge pile of files and told Shir that this was just the beginning, there was still a lot more to study. Shir sat down to read, but after going through so many files, her brain felt like it was going to explode. Meanwhile, Joe smugly commented that she wouldn't be able to handle the workload, and that a countryside girl like her wouldn't be able to adapt to city life so quickly. Determined to prove him wrong, Shir worked even harder, making copies of the files and taking them home to study overnight. Realizing how persistent she was, Joe was a little surprised. This girl was different from everyone else. Maybe this time, he would be the one to give up instead of her. Shir started feeling sleepy, so to stay awake, she drank some herbal tea. At the same time, Joe was also still awake and went outside for some fresh air. That's when he saw Shir. Blood was dripping from her nose. Seeing the blood, Joe suddenly froze. It triggered a painful memory from his past. He remembered a tragic accident where his mother and father had died. Overwhelmed, Joe lost consciousness. When he woke up, Shir was beside him. But something was different. Joe had completely reverted to a childlike state. He didn't even recognize Shir and looked terrified. He was trembling like a scared child and even hid under the table. Seeing him like this, Shir was shocked. When she tried talking to him, Joe started crying, completely panicking. Trying to calm him down, Shir asked if he was hungry. When he nodded, she quickly made him instant noodles. Joe ate like a little kid, finishing his food without hesitation. But he was still afraid. He didn't want Shir to leave, so she brought him a blanket and gently covered him. In the end, Joe fell asleep in Shir's lap. The next morning, when he woke up, he saw Char beside him and instantly backed away. As soon as he realized what had happened, he warned Shir not to tell anyone about it. But Shir became even more curious what had happened to him. Why did he suddenly behave like a child? Why was he so afraid? When Joe realized she was too interested in his secret, he threatened her, saying that if she told anyone what she saw, she would regret it. After saying that, he quickly left, but Shir followed him. Determined to know the truth, Shir kept chasing him even when he locked himself inside his since she wouldn't give up. Joe ran into Shasha's office to hide. Shasha was surprised to see him enter so suddenly and asked, "You never leave your office and now you're here working?" Trying to cover up his actions, Joe made up an excuse, saying that he just wanted a change of environment. However, as soon as he heard Shir's voice outside, he immediately hid under a chair. Seeing his ridiculous behavior, Shasha laughed, but Joe quickly left before Shir could find him. Still, Shir didn't stop chasing him. To escape from her, Joe started running all over the office. At one point, he managed to lose her by getting into an elevator, but Shir simply took the stairs and caught up with him again. Desperate, Joe ran away again, but Shir still found him. This time, she cornered him and said, "Now that it's just the two of us, tell me the truth, what happened to you?" They were so close that Shir suddenly realized the tension between them and backed away slightly. Trying to change the subject, she said, but before they could leave, they heard footsteps approaching. Meanwhile, outside, Joe's assistant was talking to 3 colleagues, who were asking why Joe had been acting so strangely today. At first, the assistant refused to say anything, but after being pressured, he finally confessed he had seen she and Joe sleeping together in the office that morning. Not only that, but they were both still in yesterday's clothes. Hearing this, the 3 of them were completely shocked. At the same time, inside the office, Joe and Shir accidentally made a noise, making the people outside suspicious. Realizing that someone was hiding inside, they demanded, "Whoever's in there, come out." A moment later, Joe and Shir walked out, both holding brooms and pretending to clean. They casually walked in opposite directions, acting completely innocent. Seeing this ridiculous scene, the 4 colleagues became even more suspicious. Now, they were completely convinced that something was going on between Joe and Shir. But Shir still wasn't done chasing Joe. Frustrated, Joe finally lost his patience and snapped at her. Shir calmly told him, "I can't help you if you don't tell me what's wrong." Joe refused to talk, wanting to end the conversation. Just then, Grandpa called Shir, informing her that the entire family was gathering for dinner that night. Joe met his cousin, Zyron, who was Uncle Wei's son. Zyron had recently opened his own swimming club, but his uncle and aunt were completely unhappy about it. They kept pressuring him to take a more stable job. When Joe arrived at the dinner, Grandpa introduced Shir to the family as his special assistant. Immediately, Aunt Wei started her fake drama, pretending to praise Shir but then subtly mocking her appearance and makeup. However, Shir wasn't affected at all. She didn't care about superficial things. As the family sat down for dinner, Uncle Wei began making indirect insults at Joe. Shir, just by looking at Uncle Wei, could tell that he had health issues. She warned him to cut down on fatty foods and sweets. Hearing this, Uncle Wei went completely silent. After dinner, Zyron approached Shir and asked if she could teach him Kung Fu. Shir told him that learning Kung Fu wasn't easy, and that she had trained since childhood to master it. Zyron then invited Shir to go downtown with him over the weekend. Shir was hesitant, but Zyron confidently said that he would ask Joe for permission. Meanwhile, Uncle Wei continued mocking Joe, targeting his leadership at the company. To change the subject, Zyron asked Shir to demonstrate self-defense techniques. Shir, wanting to prove a point, used Zyron as her practice partner. However, in the process, a glass of water accidentally spilled all over Uncle Wei's head. Feeling embarrassed, Uncle Wei quickly left the room. Later, Joe dropped Shir off at her house, which was in a dark and lonely neighborhood. Seeing the poor living conditions, Joe asked her why she didn't accept Grandpa's offer to live in a house. He said that he wanted to live in a better place. Shir responded with another inspirational line from her master explaining that life in the city was different, and that to survive, one had to take advantage of every opportunity. Joe advised her, saying, if you don't learn to accept help from others sometimes, you won't be able to move forward. As he was about to leave, Shir stopped him and asked about his condition. Seeing her persistence, Joe finally told her the truth. He had an unusual medical condition that made him faint at the sight of blood, and so far, no cure had been found. He made Shir promise not to tell anyone. Shir agreed but also swore that she would cure him one day.